want to start off by giving our praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakadesh, the honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone that taught me this truth. Alright, now, just seen a few news articles and then just got me thinking about Jacob's trouble. And I understand that, being from the South, it's a lot easier for us to understand and believe there's going to be a Jacob's trouble because probably deal with way more in your face type racism than other places. But if you are paying attention to these news stories, you can see they are working to put that spirit, that same spirit that was on these Edomites back in the 30s and 40s, trying to get it to return. Alright, this is Jeremiah chapter 30, and I'm going to start at verse 3. For lo, the days come, said the Lord, that I will bring again the captivity of my people Israel and Judah, said the Lord, and I will cause them to return to the land that I gave to their fathers, and they shall possess it. And these are the words that the Lord spoke concerning Israel and concerning Judah. Israel, the northern kingdom, Judah, the southern kingdom. Alright, so concerning the blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans, in other words. Alright, and he said this is what's going to have to happen to bring again the captivity, so to free us. Alright, for thus said the Lord, we have heard a voice of trembling, of fear, and not of peace. Ask ye now and see whether a man does travail with child. Alright, so pretty much, can a man have a child? Is a man pregnant? Where do I see every man with his hands on his lungs as a woman in travail, and our faces are turned into paleness? Alright, so this is going to make a man act like pregnant women. That's how bad these times are going to be for the children of Israel and the children of Judah. At last, for that day is great, so that none is like it. Even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. For it shall come to pass in that day, said the Lord of hosts, that I will break his yoke from off thy neck, and will burst thy bonds, and the stranger should no more serve themselves of him. So pretty much, the Lord saying, he was going to free us, alright? But they should serve the Lord their God, and David their king, whom I will raise up unto them. Alright, so the Lord said we were going to serve our king, King David, alright? So that's letting you know that the Lord is going to raise up King David in these last days, alright? Therefore, fear thou not, O my servant Jacob, said the Lord, neither be dismayed, O Israel, for I will save thee from afar, and thy seed from the land of thy captivity. And Jacob should return and should be in rest and be quiet, and none should make him afraid. So it's letting us know that ain't none of us gonna be afraid, alright? So the Lord is gonna take care of us, and that after this, after we go through Jacob's trouble, this is gonna be it. This is pretty much the last, ass whooping our people gotta take. Alright, as you can see, that spirit is getting ready to come back on Esau Edom.
Are being recovered despite the fact that there have been fewer arrests. The final thing that's driving these crime trends is the social unrest that followed the brutal murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis. And what that incident and other incidents like it did is it drove a wedge between cops and the...
And now, you see they call this thing Black Lives Matter, and they say it was our people, destroying everything. But when you see these images, these crowds are made up of largely Edomites.
Communities they serve. And what we're seeing is police alienated from communities and communities alienated from police. So we're seeing less proactive investigation from police, and we're seeing less cooperation in some of the most impacted communities.
So let me ask you what you've seen so far as mayors are responding. We just saw the news.
Most impacted communities, in other words, blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans communities, all right? So-called, all right? Israel and Judah. This article is this little clip is gonna go into, the country courts on violent crimes across the U.S.
On the rise in the U.S., a Council on Criminal Justice report shows homicides rose 5% in 2021. That's up 44% from just 2 years prior. And gun assaults were up by 8% in 2021. For more on this, I want to bring in Thomas Abt. He is a senior fellow at the Council on Criminal Justice. He is also the author of the book Bleeding Out: The Devastating Consequences of Urban Violence and a Bold New Plan for Peace in the Streets.
The devastating consequences of urban violence, all right? So pretty much the devastating consequences of Israel and Judah violence, all right? That is pretty much what they are saying, all right? And they are targeting everything towards Israel and Judah, because we all know who lives in these urban environments: blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans.
Thomas, thank you so much for being with us. So what are some possible factors in the rise in gun violence and homicides in the past couple of years?
It's a great question. Crime trends are hard to understand, but broadly speaking, there's three explanations that the experts seem to agree on. The first is the pandemic, which has put those individuals who are at the highest risk for gun violence under enormous pressure, more pressure and strain that they were under before. The pandemic has also stressed and put pressure on the institutions that are responsible for responding to violence, such as police, EMS, hospitals, and also community-based programs that seek to intervene with high-risk individuals. Second is the social unrest that followed the brutal murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis. There was a significant spike in homicides after that continued throughout the summer. And broadly speaking, incidents like that have driven a wedge between police and the communities they serve, causing crime to go up. And finally, guns. There was a significant surge in legal firearm purchases that began in the beginning of the pandemic and continued throughout. And unfortunately, what we've seen from some new ATF data is that a portion of those legal gun purchases found their way into the hands of criminals at a higher rate than they have in the past.
And where is this happening, Thomas? Is the recent uptick in crime limited to big cities, or is it impacting smaller cities and rural areas as well?
It's happening everywhere, but the biggest impact is in our cities, large, mid-size, and small.
So what are some tested and proven tactics that police can use to combat this most recent surge?
Sure, there are some evidence-based strategies that we know can work to reduce crime. On the police side, they involve using targeted crime control tactics in the places where crime concentrates, often known as hotspots, and among the people who are disproportionately committing the crimes. So the key thing is targeting. In addition, you need to supplement your police strategies with community-based approaches to engage those people, to give them something to say yes to, as well as to say no to.
Well, what would you say are some common mistakes that police departments can sometimes make in efforts to reduce crime?
Well, a good example is New York City. New York City had significant success with these place-based approaches, but then sort of went too far and started policing indiscriminately in these locations, and that led to the stop and frisk controversy under the Bloomberg administration. They scaled that back significantly.
And we all know that stop and frisk was just a way to harass, people of color, right? Brown-skinned people. That's all stop and frisk was. And you see them speaking like it was, something good, and they need to bring back similar measures and stuff like that. That just goes to tell you, this is Ezekiel 35, and I'm going to start at verse 3. And he said unto it, Thus said the Lord Yahweh, Behold, O Mount Seir, I am against thee, and I will stretch out my hand against thee, and I will make thee most desolate. I will lay thy cities waste, and thou should be a desolation, and thou should know that I am the Lord. So this is the Lord saying that he is going to destroy Mount Seir. And we know the people of Mount Seir is the modern day Edomites, Idumea, so-called white men. Alright? Because thou hast had a perpetual hatred, and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword, in the time of their calamity, and in the time that their iniquity had an end. Alright, so you know that perpetual hatred, you know, because when slavery ended, that was supposed to be it. But you know, they kept going on for years and years, you know. And one thing is about being in the South, you know, Texas, you know, they were still, 2009, still, people coming up missing, found dead in the woods. Hell, probably even to this day, down here in this area. So, it ain't stopped, all right? It's underground, it's hidden, but it still goes on, all right? And, they was openly, hanging, and killing people well up into the 70s, all right? It's just then in the 70s, they just took it underground and made it more of a secret thing, but yet it still goes on, all right? 6th verse. Therefore, as I live, said the Lord Yahweh, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee, said the Lord. Said thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee. Thus would I make Mount Seir most desolate, and cut off him that passes out, and him that remaineth. So the Lord saying, he was going to make them desolate. He was going to cut them off for all the evil that they have did against Israel and Judah. And I will fill his mountains with his slain, and thy hills, and thy valleys, and all the rivers should thou fill that are slain with the sword. And I will make thee perpetual desolation, and thy city should not return, and ye should know that I am the Lord. Alright, so this is the Lord saying that, he's going to cut off Mount Seir, alright? And he's going to cut them off with the sword, with them, nuclear missiles, with the sword, with the weapons of war, because that's how they destroyed everybody else, alright? Now, let's hear a little bit more of this story, and then I got one last clip to end it with.
They switched to something called precision policing, which is focusing on the people in places that are disproportionately driving the gun violence, and they've had more success since then.
So, of course, policing is just one aspect of what we're talking about. What role does the judicial system play in reducing crime?
It's less clear, the role of the judicial system. We don't have as much research on that, and as a result, it's hard to know. Recent bail reforms have been much criticized by many in law enforcement, but we've seen crime go up in jurisdictions that did bail reform and in jurisdictions that didn't. So hard to say. One thing we do know is that criminals tend to respond much more quickly to swift and certain punishments rather than punishments that are necessarily severe. So the key thing is to increase the certainty that they'll get caught.
All right, well, it's certainly something we're seeing, as we mentioned, across the country. Thomas, thank you very much for your time.
All right, this is Genesis 27:41. And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherein his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, when the days of mourning for my father are at hand, then I will slay my brother Jacob. Alright, so they have said in their heart that they're going to slay Jacob. And that's why it keeps returning. Everything keeps being our fault. Play this video, and then we're going to scroll through the comment section on this one. Alright? And probably bring out like a few more scriptures at the end.
We've been talking here a lot about the war overseas, but we are also, as you know, fighting a war right here at home for the streets of our cities. And here are the latest examples of the wicked battle being waged. A suspected serial killer has been arrested in connection with the heinous set of shootings that targeted vulnerable homeless people in New York City and Washington, D.C. That killing spree leaving 2 dead, injuring 3 others. And another man has been charged with a hate crime. Look at this animal. For the
Alright, so now when you talk about serial killers, you know, it's gonna show a man look kind of like a Jake. They talking about serial killers, alright? Now, the majority of the serial killers look like Edomites, alright? But for some reason, when they feel the need to talk about serial killers, then they brought up a Jake. There are very few Jake serial killers. Very few.
horrific beating of an Asian woman, the racist punk stomping, punching the 67-year-old woman in the head more than 125 times. She suffered multiple contusions, lacerations, bleeding on the brain. Another Asian woman victimized in stable condition after that assault.
And you know, they always talk about these Asian victim crimes, and you know, and we all know Moab and the way they speak to Jake in this country and talk down on us and look at us, you know, is to me, I'm actually amazed that so few Asian people have been beaten because you know, they got Jake in this mindset with these drugs and stuff to where they ain't mentally there. And then you got these Asians with they open racial hatred towards our people, and they're very open with it. I mean, they don't hide none of it. All right, so that's one of the reasons why the Bible say the nations, you know, are going to have to pay. All right, you know, for what they did. All right, now, but they show this man, and as you can see, is another Jake.
So it's a miracle. First comment on that.
I hate it. I hate it. You know what? This is what we voted for in New York. I know we're talking about New York now. You have a cultural institution, the Museum of Modern Art. You're a young woman working behind the desk, and some guy, normal-looking guy, comes in. He's upset, you know, that his permit was revoked or whatever. He jumps the desk to stab you and your girlfriend. See, the people that are committing, the people who are co-worker, people who are committing these crimes are committing them over and over and over again. And don't think, all you social justice warriors, don't think that you're saving one guy because he committed or made one mistake. They commit mistake after mistake. They continue on their crime sprees until they're stopped. And I know this. I know it in my DNA.
They commit mistake after mistake, and they continue until they are stopped. All right, this is Psalms 137. Remember, O Lord, the children of Edom in the day of Jerusalem, who said, raise it, even to the foundations thereof. So, with the Edomites having committed mistake after mistake. O daughter of Babylon, who ought to be destroyed. So the Lord said, the daughter of Babylon. So this is how we know this is not talking about ancient Babylon, who ought to be destroyed. Happy should he be that rewarded thee as thou hast served us. Alright, so the Lord say, happy is he going to be to reward Babylon as they have served us. Happy should he be that taketh and dashes thy little ones against the stones.
From having done this for 30 years. And I'm not surprised that this guy, one of the attackers, had 22 prior convictions. It's our fault that they're running around and victimizing us. I don't want to take all the time, but unless you change the bail law in New York State, and unless we get rid of these progressive DAs, then we've got no hope. Then you just better hope that if you get shot or stabbed, that you don't die, because justice ain't coming, the cavalry ain't coming, and you're never going to get any kind of retribution.
In Ohio yesterday, Mike DeWine, the governor, passed a law that allows concealed carry even without a license or any training. Is that a solution?
I guess if the cavalry ain't coming, that's a solution, and you can't disarm a public if you also have no consistent law enforcement. You know, there's another part of this that we talked about before. It drives me crazy. You know, this MoMA suspect was homeless, probably mentally ill. All these people stabbing people, homeless, mentally ill. The serial killer claims by his dad to be mentally ill. At a certain point, despite all the billions that we've spent on the mental...
Now, why are they mentally ill? It's because of the rulership of Esau Edom. They're the ones putting the drugs into the communities. These COVID knockdowns, everything that, that they are doing is what's causing the mental illness. Like, I put another short video about my deal called my bad lockdown syndrome. I know they even got a medical term for it now about people going crazy over that. Alright, so there's a lot of stuff. So they pay a huge part onto the mental illness.
Ill, it all goes into the pockets of the administrators. So maybe we just stop. Like, what are we supposed to do? If we're supposed to help the mentally ill, but we leave them on the streets and we let them, maybe we just treat them like criminals, arrest them and put them away. But that seems even worse, but we've got no choice. So we keep pointing out these liberal laws and nothing changes. This is just like talking about the war. We talk about how horrible things are, but then we go like, what do? We've been doing this for 3 years. We got nothing. It's getting worse.
Erica was in town, Sandra, over the weekend and went shopping on Madison Avenue, noting some of the stores still closed from the riots, but mostly noticing how prevalent homeless people are on the premier shopping boulevard of the premier city in the country. Does anything...
They got homeless people still in this country, but yet they can send millions and billions to Ukraine. I'm just saying.
Suggest dysfunction more eloquently than that visible problem where all of these people, whatever their background, are all over the place.
I hope she watched her back every time she turned a corner or walked down a block, because it's scary in New York City right now, and that is fact. The crime is running rampant. It's not just here, but the one attack in Seattle stood out to me and broke my heart. This longtime healthcare worker,
Yes.
She was on her way up at a rail station. She was going up the stairs when a career criminal, in an unprovoked attack, grabbed her, 62 years old, threw that nurse down the stairs. Yes, Alexander J., 40 years old, cement steps. She suffered a broken clavicle, 3 broken ribs. She was rushed to the hospital, the very hospital where she has worked for 25 years helping other people. That gives me chills. That is awful, and that is just one example of the many unprovoked...
As you can see, there's people walking by, just witnesses that they don't say nothing about. Didn't try to help the woman or nothing. Alright, like you said, it's an unprovoked attack, so we don't know what happened. But women are gonna have to be under protection of a man in these days. Alright, that's why a man gonna be more precious than fine gold. This is Isaiah 32 verses 9 and 11. Rise up, you women that are at ease. Hear my voice, ye creditors dollars. Give ear unto my speech. Many days and years should be of trouble, ye creditors dollars, for the vintage should fail and the gathering should not come. So this is going into the economy failing. Tremble, ye women that are at ease, be troubled, ye careless ones. Strip you and make you bare, and great sackcloth upon your lawns. Alright? And I'm going to skip up to the second verse. And a man should be a hiding place from the wind, in a covert from the tempest, in a river of water, in a dry place, as the shadow of a great rock in a river land. Because, if that woman was walking with a man, somebody would have been there to protect her. And, besides, it looked like the 2 guys who just going on up the escalator on the other side, pretending not to see anything. And the eyes of them should not be dim, and the ears of them that hear should hearken. Alright. So, you can see, things are getting wild, and you can see all these articles. And we all know that live here that, even though it goes against popular belief, Jake does not commit the majority of the violent crimes here. But yet, these news articles only are showing mainly our face. There's a reason behind it.
attacks that are happening in these cities all over the country.
Mentally ill or not, a crime is a crime. That's why I think the judge's point about bail reform is the one that resonates, because when you commit a crime, you should be charged to the fullest extent of the law, held if you are a threat to society, pre-trial, and then given the full sentence if you are convicted.
We can't do anything if the liberals won't help us do anything,
Right.
Waldo.
That's it.
You can't live in a society if half the society doesn't want to live in a civilization.
Exactly.
We can crow about this all day. We've been showing this for 2.5 years, this crime wave, and everybody knows what needs to be done, but no one does it.
Yep.
So we're just sitting here complaining because liberal politicians don't care. They just don't care. That's the bottom line.
Look at this guy. Look at
Even
this.
then.
Look at this. Look at this.
Yeah.
Can you believe?
And they're going to go to work tomorrow
Right.
in Albany and not do a damn thing about it.
And Geraldo, you don't see that. You will not see that on other networks. This stuff doesn't exist.
Oh, yeah. But Jen Psaki said,
Geraldo,
look, I'm talking
sad.
about no consequences to crime.
Yeah.
You know what they
Remember
did
that?
today in Congress? They memorialized daylight savings time.
Yes.
That's what they did.
Well, that was
they
big.
made daylight savings time permanent. And we have this.
I was worried about that
all
one.
over the street.
All right, now let's just go into the comment section. See if I can get this bill. Alright, let's just read some of these comments. Alright. This is sickening to see. The prosecutors need to go to prison and start calling them out by name. Alright. And notice how the whole Stop Asian Hate Crime thing drops off as soon as people start noticing that it was pretty much exclusively black dudes doing it. Alright, so exclusively Judah doing the Asian hate crimes, they say. Like I said, Asian people have been hating us for years, and then you don't see no outrage over the Asian people, that's been doing wrong to Jake. Cause I don't even think that woman got charged that shot that Eve in the head, not too long ago. I don't even think she even got brought up on charges. Alright. Alright, so as you can see, the comments, why is nobody jumping up and down about a racial crime? But it was a white guy, it would be all we hear. Alright, so that they pretty much saying, these people are outraged. It's comment after comment. I'm just trying to skim through and grab a few off the top. And as you can see, these people are letting be known how they feel about Jake right now. Alright, and when you see articles and stories like this should let you know that yes, there's gonna be a Jake was trouble. Let's just want to say, my baby would never do such a thing, yet he was recorded a mile long. Tired of that crap. Alright? So you see how it going? Alright? And then you're the ones quoting a gun on your hip is better than a cop on your phone. So expect these Edomites to just start shooting Jake, alright? Alright? It's gonna get bad out here. I owned firearms for 17 years without a paperwork before finally getting a concealed carry permit. I never committed a crime in my life. This sad truth is that criminals get firearms just as easy, so we might. Alright? So just saying, telling people to arm up. Alright? And you see, alright. These scumbags is just by doing nothing why an innocent woman is getting beaten are just as bad as the criminals themselves. Alright, so they gonna point that out. And I think when I first put this up, there were a few more comments in there. You know how YouTube go through and take out stuff, but as you can see, cause there was quite a few comments I seen that was just targeted at Jake. Alright, it literally feels like we going back in time 45 years. Alright, so that's what people say. It feel like you're beginning to go back in time. Like he should have probably said 65, a bit more accurate, but you know, you get where he getting it. But as you can see, Jake is being forced. That's right, and I'm gonna end it with Daniel chapter 12, verse 1. And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince that standeth for the children of thy people. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. At that time thy people shall be delivered, and everyone that shall be found written in the book. Alright, so we're about to hit that time. Alright, so Michael gonna have to stand up for his people. That's how bad it's finna get out here for Jake. And as you can see, they're working on, putting that spirit back on the Edomites once again to kill, destroy, and hunt Jake once again, just like they did in the 60s. And with that, Shalom.